Oh, hello, I'm back and I'm still wearing the same shirt, and I still can't speak because I'm jet lagged. So I'm going down the list. I've received questions and comments. You saw the rambling travel update. I was asked to give a travel update and show us your face, mister. And then I was asked, why are you making a YouTube channel? Who do you think you are, young man? Not as young as I used to be. And the next question on my list, it's a short list. It's more of a like a why are you doing this in the larger in the larger context. What compelled you to leave us? And I do want to say, and I know those of you in the school community from whence I came and where I left, it wasn't you, it was me, right? Not to say that we broke up, because I feel like I may come back at some point. The school community where I have been, first of all, I teach. I've taught for 10 years. I taught at the university and community college level for 3 years as an adjunct professor in both Arizona, where I did my graduate work, and then in my hometown of Houston, Texas, USA, before I parlayed that into a full-time job with the local school district, where I spent 7 years in an urban magnet school environment, low-income, at-risk students, Title I, in the trenches, getting my hands dirty, metaphorically. I taught and coached. I was an English teacher. I am an English teacher. I'll be a different sort of English teacher here in Vietnam, I think. Maybe not. Well, that's a different video. But I did abandon to some extent. I didn't quit in the middle of the year like some of you clowns out there have done. I didn't break my contract. I resigned without penalty, because I can. You are allowed to do that. It's not a blood contract. So anyway, what I'm getting at is that I was in pretty deep, and I had roots in this community. I loved this school. I bleed blue and gold. I care more for this school than my own high school, for whatever that means, for different sets of reasons. I love my own high school, and I have friends that I care deeply for that I met there and would not have met otherwise, and I know things that I wouldn't have known otherwise. But working in this environment and in this community and with the school, I also coached. So I was teaching English, mostly the seniors. I taught freshman English 1 year, which was a nightmare. That's a different video too. I taught electives, and I was involved in any number of different committees, and we'll do teacher videos down the road. And I coached girls soccer and boys and girls cross country. So again, lots of connections. Why did I do this? Why would you leave us? And I don't want to get too personal on this, and I won't, having said that. But just to answer the question, it wasn't you, it was me, I promise. Because the school and community did get a brand new building. So I had been in a temporary campus for 3 years, suffering through the transition period. And the school had a brand new, amazing $61 million project that the city bond election in Houston rebuilt. But the timing for me personally, none of that stuff really mattered. I mentioned in the previous videos, I had a great full-time job in a great community. Like I said, I love the students. I miss you terribly already. It's why I'm so active on social media, because I totally miss and love my former students, and love to see your stuff, all y'all's shit online. I love it. It was a personal thing, man, and those of you who are my former students or former players, you know that as the years went by, I kind of got grumpier, for lack of a better term. I was unhappy, personally. And when you're a teacher, your personal life, sometimes you begin to project it out onto your students. And I didn't want to be that person. So when I started to feel like, you know what, this is becoming toxic, I had to sort of just reevaluate my life. And I think a lot of teachers can relate to that. My circuits were fried. I was emotionally exhausted. You give yourself and your life, you give a little piece of yourself away 100 times every day, day after day, to all these different students. I usually had between 100 and 150 students and athletes that I was interacting with every day, or that I was responsible for as a teacher. And it all just kind of caught up to me. So that's my answer. I did this because I was exhausted. I was exhausted professionally, and that began to affect relationships, and I began to get exhausted personally. I was having a hard time with romantic relationships because of my inability to sort of manage the nature of what I did and where I did it and how I did it. And that sort of parlayed into the spiritual realm. And then the cherry on the cake was the sort of bizarro world political situation that my home country finds itself in. This sort of like the racism, the police, the political toxicity, the general social malaise, and the way that technology has affected things, the socioeconomics, all these different things, I guess, that inform us who we are as people. I took inventory, and not having a sort of what I would call a psychic anchor or a figurative anchor, single, small enough amount of saving, nothing monstrous, but enough that I knew I could get away and not work for a very short period of time and explore options, knowing that there are always ESL hotspots around the world. It's part of why I became an English teacher, because I have a TEFL certificate, teaching English as a foreign language. I've taught abroad in the past, very briefly. It didn't go as planned. That's another video I'll make. But I taught briefly in South America before I decided to come and try things out in Asia, because Vietnam in particular has a massive middle class, and there's a huge demand to learn English here. So I knew that I was marketable given my background and experience, right? Multiple degrees, multiple certificates, a decade of teaching experience. I knew that it was not too much of a risk to land a gig elsewhere. And that sort of fueled my wanderlust, and I hadn't traveled extensively in a couple years. And over the course of my life, I've been traveling quite a bit. I've been to 17 countries. I lived in Spain for about 5 months. I lived in Chile for 2 months, and then my goal was to spend a year abroad somewhere. That's always been a goal of mine. Live and teach abroad for a year or two. So again, taking inventory of those anchors in my life, no mortgage, no wife, no children that I know of, no pet even, right? My pet was always my mother's pets were always sort of like my pets. I was never directly responsible for them because my place in Houston didn't have a yard or anything. So all those different things sort of brought me to this moment where I said I need a drastic life change. As I've said to my students before, and I will again, life is short. There are people that I grew up with who are not alive anymore. Life is short, and the world is a big place. I love Vietnam. Vietnam has always been a part of my life in the background. That's another video. And I will address that next, I think. Mike, look at my little list. Why Vietnam? So again, I'm pushing 10 minutes here, and I'm rambling again because I'm really good at talking, because it's part of what I do. I come from a long line of people who talk a lot. And as a teacher, talking a lot is part of what I do. So that's why I did this. So to my friends and former students, and students that would have been my students this year, players who I would have coached this year, forgive me. I still love you. I'm still watching you, and I'm still only a DM or an email or a whatever the hell. You all know there's 10 different ways to get in contact with me, and I do hope that if you have questions, or if you need help with the college acceptance process, or you need a letter of recommendation, which I'm happy to do for you, don't think that I forgot about you. And I hope that this makes sense. I hope that you understand one day, when you're facing an existential personal crisis in your mid-30s, down the road, then you'll think back, and maybe I'll make a little more sense to you. But I do want to say that it's not you, it's me. That's why I did this, and I'm ending the video. Next question. Peace. Whoa.